Welcome to the Human Advantage podcast, where culture is created, not claimed. We've been talking about culture for years, but most companies still reduce people to check boxes that are supposed to define an entire human being. We hire for familiarity, we reward sameness, and then wonder why teams struggle. The problem isn't talent, it's the system. And this podcast is about changing that. Diversity beyond checkboxes, culture add over culture fit, and how people think is the real differentiator. Because people aren't categories, they're the advantage. Welcome back, everyone. Today, Adam and myself are joined by Tim Harvey, Director of Procurement at CompSource Mutual Insurance, and he is a leader who believes the work is not just about contracts, cost savings, or checking boxes. And if you check out his LinkedIn, you will see right away exactly what I'm talking about. For Tim, procurement equals collaboration. He truly brings a people-first perspective that I love, along with a strong belief that people are the real differentiator in any organization. Now, I will say I was a little hesitant to meet with Tim a few weeks back because he was rooting for his hometown favorite, Kevin Lee, on Tournaments of Champs. If you know, you know. And he had just taken out my favorite, Jet Tila, so I wasn't sure if it was going to be a networking meeting or a culinary debate. But we made it through, and I'm excited to have him here today. So welcome to the podcast, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And before we even get started, I just want to say I also love Jet Tila.
Going back to this. Clear it up.
Gotta say, Tim, we just met, buddy, but I did have a grudge against you for the last, I don't know, month or so, because we had it recorded and we're watching the final cook, and I'm all like, oh, good for Brian, man. I'm so excited he won. Like, he deserved it. And
Yeah.
she goes, yeah, I already knew he won. I'm like, what? I'm like, how did you look? And she's like, I saw Tim's post. I was like, oh, he's on my list. I was like, good thing when we started, I liked you, because I was like, how did you already know this? Yeah.
I should get kudos, though, for keeping it quiet. I didn't spill until after we watched the episode.
That's true.
So.
That's true.
Good. I should have put spoiler alert. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Well, it took me a minute. I saw the picture, and it took me a minute to put two and two together. And I will say I am Jet diehard all the way. You can ask Adam. I was just pissed off that whole night. And so you got lucky going into that meeting that I had put it all aside because it could have been bad. I was harboring a grudge.
Yeah, I'm glad that it could have been really bad.
We should probably put in, this is not an ad for the Food Network or anything, but it is a good show. It is a good show. We'll take it.
Well, that was one of the things that I bonded with was basically food, the love of food, everything food with Tim when we chat. But I would love to kind of just get started with your story. How did you find your way into procurement, and what has kept you in this space?
Perfect question. So my journey into procurement was just like everyone else's in procurement. It had nothing to do with procurement.
Of course.
Yeah.
At least for the people that go back as long as I do. Everybody stumbled into it. There's no college course for purchasing, procurement, contracts. You touch it, you come across it in different classes or whatever, but usually 9 times out of 10, no one even knows what it is. Even to this day, a lot of people I work with don't really know what procurement does. We know we need you whenever we need to go get things. Other than that, we don't have the first clue what you do. So, I was actually a warehouse supervisor, and one of those other duties as assigned, I took on the P card for my, at the time, agency, just by default. I think we had someone leave, and then I started doing that, of course, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I was doing reports, doing my monthly reporting, I guess. And so the person I was reporting to ended up becoming my boss later in procurement, and he just kind of took me under his wing, and I never looked back since. It
There
was
you are.
some form or fashion of supply chain procurement. As I've been doing that for 20 plus years, and here I am now.
I love it. It's hilarious you touch on not many people know what procurement is until they need to buy something. And then they're like, oh, who do
Yeah.
I? Oh, that's right. Where's Tim? Where's Tim? Hey,
Yeah. Right.
that being said, though, I think a lot of people's, when they hear procurement, they immediately think, cost savings, contracts, process, right? We're on a podcast called The Human Advantage, Tim. So where does the human side of procurement come into the equation? Because I think it's a lot more relationship focused than a lot of people give it credit for.
It absolutely is, and that's a great segue because it's all people. It really, the more I learn, I've been in all kinds of procurement. I've bought all kinds of things, everything you can imagine, from military equipment to pens and pencils. And I have had argument after argument with people of, they have complicated specs and, it has to be this specific part in order for the plane to fly, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it right here to the entire world. If you can read at a third grade level, you can do procurement. It doesn't matter. You can have all the expertise in the world in a certain subject, IT, whatever. Contracts are contracts. And in
Yeah.
the end, it does always, 100% of the time, come down to people and um, relationships. And if a fractured relationship can be really ugly, like Tia talked about earlier. You can have your backup. You can have your backup and be upset, and you get on the phone and negotiate, and then all of a sudden, that person on the other end is a really nice person, and
Yeah.
somehow you work it out, you figure it out, whatever it is. I've always said in the working world, not just procurement, in any profession, communication is key. 9 times out of 10, when people aren't getting along, when something's, there's an issue, there's a problem, it's almost always a lack of communication is what led us here. So opening
Yeah.
that bridge, opening those doors, getting people in the same room, sitting down, having a chat is pretty fail-safe way to solve things. I don't know. I'm a big sports guy. I think we may have talked a little bit about sports, and even food that we were talking about earlier. Still comes down to relationships. Judges,
Yeah.
those cooking shows we were talking about, they judge blind on purpose, so
Yeah,
there's no
right.
bias. Yeah,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
have their bias for their buddy, for their friend, for people they're familiar with. I guess a lot of what we're going to talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
But above all things, you said it perfectly, Adam. It is all about people and figuring out what people need, figuring out what people want, figuring out how people work together, or figuring out that they don't work together,
Yeah. For
keeping them
sure.
apart. So, yeah.
What is, one thing procurement leaders can do to make the process feel more human without losing that discipline or accountability?
That's a good question. You've done this before. So, making it relational, I think, really comes down to transparency. Just be honest. Just, it kills me right now, today, in my world, when I'm operating, and we're going and we're buying a software from some company, and the salespeople are just giving you all the glitz and glamour, and oh, it can do this and do that, and we ask a hard question, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, it will do. When it doesn't. Just be honest. Just tell me straight up. You don't know. I think the most powerful phrase in the English language is "I don't know," but I'll find out. you just
Yep.
really. And for people in my world, hey, my team is asking for this. I don't really understand it either. I don't know, but help me out. Give me what I need to give them. Give me the message. Give me the words to say. I get through so many deals or so many situations just straight up. I don't like it either, but let's help each other. How about that?
Yeah.
And it'll get you pretty far, honestly.
I love that. So doing some homework on the pod, I saw you shared a post about getting younger talent into procurement. And I'm gonna try to streamline this question a bit, but I've got so many thoughts on this because there's so many correlations to so many things. T and I have a 7 and 5 year old, right? We think about what's the future work going to look like when they enter it? What are they going to want to get into? What are they going to want to do? Us being
Yeah,
a staffing age owning a staffing agency, like it's the same with recruiting, right? Like nobody goes to college for recruiting. Like there's
right.
not I
Yeah,
never took a procurement class when I was in, getting my MBA or doing university. Like I didn't take a recruiting class when I did it either, right? Like
right.
there's so many things when you enter the workforce that you don't really necessarily think about as your younger self, right? Or even going through university or going through college. Like there's really no perspective on recruiting, procurement, like these types of business that are so necessary for a business to thrive and to run with, but they're kind of an afterthought in a lot of ways, right? Or people don't really look
Yeah,
at that and going, I want to do that as a career. And so a byproduct of that, I think, lots of times, which obviously, a big thing of us on the recruiting side is like, why can't we change these systems? Like, what can we do differently? How do we change these kind of archaic systems that are the are byproduct of if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got scenario, right? And
yeah,
I
yeah,
think procurement is a lot in that same vein, right? Where you get a lot of people who kind of like yourself fell into it and have stayed in it for 25, 35 years and are graduate, but like who's that next generation coming in and what perspectives are they going to bring? And I'm curious to get your take on what perspectives do you think procurement needs right now coming from that younger generation who's going to be changing the landscape procurement to come?
Um, wow, that's excellent.
I did a terrible job of streamlining that. I'm sorry, I talked too much, but it was.
no, no, no,
I warned
I
you.
love it.
I warned
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
yeah. We're probably both just equally nuts. So, because I followed
yeah.
you all the way.
Good, good.
um, but no, seriously, I think my industry in particular, probably even more so. I think it goes across the board, but even more than others, we've got to be open to this new AI influx. I
Yeah,
know there's a lot of hyperbole out there. There's a lot of promises being made that can't actually be met. Um, but it's reality. It really is. It's in my mind, it's a tool. It's not the answer. It's not going to replace
yeah,
us because in my industry in particular, there's a lot of people worried that AI is just going to completely replace procurement, buyers,
yeah,
whatever word you want to call it. And there's a lot of functionality in that can do what we do. But in my mind, it just takes like my workforce in particular, my team, myself and my team, and makes us stronger. So that's just the way
yeah,
it's working today. It's working right now. And when you talk about bringing in the younger generation, I think the first step is not actually with them as far as teaching them something. It's probably going to be more reflective and us learning from them. They're coming
yeah.
into it with technology. Every parent in the world, you guys have a 7 and 5 year old. I don't know if you've handed out cell phones yet, but
Yeah,
Well,
not
we're
yet, but they
putting
do
that
play on
on
ours. Yeah, yeah,
tablets and phones and people my
yeah,
age and older kind of lament the fact that these kids they have it attached to their hand, it's part of their body now, that
yeah.
whole thing, and we can rail against it. People also didn't like Elvis shaking his hips on stage. That changed.
yep, yep,
We don't have to go into what's out there now, but um things change. Technology changes. We don't ride horses and buggies around the streets anymore. We have these things called
yeah,
cars, and AI is here to stay. What it's going to look like, I have no idea. But I happen to work with a couple of brilliant people that are a lot younger than myself, who are a lot more adept and comfortable with, you know, technology is just part of their life. They haven't known a life without it. So
Yeah.
they speak it a lot better than I do.
yeah,
And I could be stubborn and I could say, no, we're going to print 150 pages of notebook paper.
yeah, yeah.
Or I could figure out how to whip open this little laptop and get with the times. So
But I
it
think,
goes both ways is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, you hit on a great point though with the AI side, and I think yes, there's this fear that it's going to replace every job and everything's going to be streamlined. And like that is true. The workforce will evolve and some jobs will look different 10 years from now than they do today. But the one piece that I think in recruiting and procurement, I think there's a lot of crossover between a lot of what we do is empathy. And I think that AI
Yeah,
is terrible at replacing empathy. And I think when you're in the people
yeah,
business and you've got to have that hard conversation of saying, hey, I know you need this now, but realistically, the business can't handle that right now. How do you have that conversation? How do you have that difficult conversation projecting saying, hey, if we hold off this purchase for 3 more months, we can get it here, we can do this. And you have those hard people conversations. We have those every day on the recruiting world too, where nobody wants to feel that through a robot. Like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you don't. You've got to
yeah,
have empathy and understanding and people relations. That's what our industry is. We're in the people business, whether we like to admit it or
yeah.
not, we are. And I just think that empathy piece is something that I don't fear will ever be replaced by AI.
No, and in fact, the empathy has already been too much taken out of the workforce, and ironically, maybe
Mhm.
AI will help us put it back because that is the
Yeah.
part that we still have that it doesn't. Um, and you talk about recruiting. I've been out there on the job hunt trying to get a
Yeah.
job for months and months. I ran my own business for a while. It didn't work out. I had to go back, and it was almost as if all my years of experience all of a sudden didn't count because this last little slice of time right before that was in my own business. And it's almost
Yeah.
like people didn't believe me that I ran my own business. I
Yeah.
don't know. But
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you, you mentioned empathy, and I think about all those emails that you get when you don't get the job, or you got
Yeah.
the second interview, but then you heard nothing for weeks and weeks, and then you just get that impersonal automated message that says, sorry, we moved on. And a human being is sitting on that side like, why don't they like me? Am I too old? Am I too
Yeah.
this? Did I
Yep.
talk too much in the interview? Da 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 da. All these things. But yeah, that cold, heartless email really has an
Yeah.
effect on people.
Well, I think employers have to think about that as their brand, right? I mean, do you really want your
Yeah,
brand to be a robot doing the first round interview, a robot rejecting everybody, a robot sending these emails? Like, how does that make you feel as a company? Do people like talent? To me, talent acquisition is acquiring talent to come to you. Do you think
yeah,
people are really going to want to come to your business if you just treat them like a number and a robot? Like, I think there has to be a balance shift, and I think it's very similar in procurement. So,
Well, that should not be your first impression.
yeah.
yeah,
That you get
yeah,
one chance and that should not be it. We utilize AI, but it would never be our first impression. You use it to really enhance and tell someone's story, but it all comes from our human connection with them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can't replace that. That never will. That just not possible. Um,
No, no.
and nor should we. You guys, the work you guys do. And before I don't want to get too far without saying I incredibly appreciate what you guys do as far as your business. I know we're not here to talk about your job, but I love it. So
I appreciate it. We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
you're
Shameless plug from you.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. The advocacy for, we're talking about people, so it really
Mhm.
coincides that all people, not just one
yes,
type of person, not just, you mentioned, I did say procurement needs to get younger, and I guess I should go back and add to that procurement needs to expand, and
Yeah,
yeah,
not just
yeah,
with the youth, but the youth of every variety that
you're
there
right.
is.
Yep.
yes,
And I think that expansion is going to be so important in these next 10 years. I saw something from one of the tech giants, I don't remember which one now, that talked about recruiting in the neurodivergent space.
yeah,
We're all fighting for the same group of people, it seems like
yep,
and yet you see companies firing thousands of people at the same time, and then they're hiring thousands of people, and
yeah,
um, my industry in particular, my company, we are going to have these mass groups of people retiring in the next 10 years. And
yeah,
Yeah.
there's not enough people to replace them as it stands today. So we got to do something. There's a lot of colleges out there, but there's not enough to fill those spots. So
totally, totally.
yeah,
A good point too, because we always hear, we talk about the lack of talent or there's not a lot of individuals, but for us, in our perspective, it comes down to individuals being left out because of these checkbox systems. Just like you said earlier too, going through the job hunt, struggling, being on the other side of it because you don't fit that mold, you don't hit all
Yeah.
those check boxes. We
Right.
talk a lot about that on the podcast. In
Yeah.
procurement, do you ever think about, is it ever talked about diversity of thought and how that can really change the quality of decisions?
Not enough. We do, and I want to give a lot of people credit that there are a lot of people in this space that are outside of the box thinkers. There's a lot that are still ingrained in what was going on 30 years ago, but there's a few rebels out there who are, we got to change it up. We got to do something different. We got to, in my job in particular, we got to keep pace with the rest of our business. If I try to be stoic and be a brick wall to progress, I'm not going to be around very long. So, and that's just the facts. In procurement, I think a lot of folks maybe coming around to the idea of diversity of thought is not exactly. So first of all, people define diversity as skin color,
Yeah.
which is completely and totally wrong.
Yeah.
Diversity
Yep.
of thought, but the word that you used is probably more accurate. I think about it in contracting terms of when I was working for the government. We might have a particular contract that we need filled, and we go out looking for people to do that business, and there might be two of them. Our law says that we have to have at least three to bid, right? But there's literally only two in our entire state that can do this thing. Why is that? Well, a lot of it goes back to people being limited and lack of access for certain types of experts and industries and whatever. So I look at it from that perspective as well. It's not companies are much different than individual people when you talk about recruiting. It does take all types. It takes all kinds. You need that in my company in particular. I have said many times, I think our staff should look like our customers. Our customers walk in the door. It'd be nice for them to speak the same language. If it's critical that we understand each other, that they understand us and we understand them. And if there's a gap there, then we're both in trouble. So, little things like that. We need to be just as diverse as the people around us, as the people we sell to, as the people we buy from, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point, right? Because I think in procurement, you get a lot of the same groups, right? Especially when it comes to kind of the vendor side, the supplier side, and we see it in the staffing world all the time, right? It's the same 15 companies who are in every MSP, who are in everything. And you look at them all going to the conferences that all doing their meetups, and it's the same group of 30 people. I'm like, you guys are just using an excuse to go get wine and take a trip, right? Like, because
cool kids club.
I mean, everybody gives the same story of like, we love what you're doing. We love this fresh perspective you guys have. We love the data, but like we're not adding vendors right now, but we're not doing this, right? There's always a red tape excuse for not innovating and just kind of doing what's comfortable and doing the same thing because it's less work for them. And I don't know that the incentives on that side are necessarily right. So what happens when the same types of people are always in the room making those decisions, making vendor strategy decisions, making all of these, projection decisions moving forward? When it's the same group that's making these decisions every time, what does that look like?
Good question.
You get trapped. You get into a repetitive cycle of the same results, and good, bad, or indifferent. Same is probably not okay because you can be doing it perfect for 3 months, and then the world outside you is changing. So your perfect is all of a sudden not good enough, and you need to change gears. And if you're not getting that fresh look, that fresh perspective, you're getting the same old regurgitated stuff, you're going to end up behind. And we've seen some pretty large companies over, I don't know what period of time, some companies that seem too big to fail did exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
spot on. Well, I think your point of it being the same, I mean, same is the opposite of innovation, right?
Exactly.
And I think,
yeah,
all of
yeah,
these companies want to innovate. They say they're innovative, they say they're moving forward. But when you look at the innovation, it's mainly only on the product side, or it's only on the offering side, or it's only in one small segment of the business that they're trying to innovate. That innovation rarely trickles down to the operation side, down to the red tape side, down to the procurement side, the supplier side, the vendor side. I think
yeah,
for us to truly see companies truly innovate, that innovation needs to be approved throughout the operation, throughout everything. How do we innovate from the
exactly.
supplier side? How do we innovate from the processes side? How do we innovate from the buying side? And to your point, exactly, like you get the same when you keep keeping the same people in the door, the same rotation of vendors, the same rotation of buyers, the same products
Right.
everywhere. Like, yeah, you're going to stay the same and that's safe, but you're
Yeah.
never going to innovate.
Yep. You're never going
That's right. And we talked a little bit earlier, I think, when we started about procurement being synonymous with cost savings.
to.
You want to negatively affect your cost. Keep the same vendors every year in and year
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
because they
spot
get
on.
complacent. Your internal people get complacent, and it went up 5%. Okay, sign off.
Yeah,
we have to
no,
keep them. Then we've been with them for 30 years, so we have to keep them, and that's just not true.
Yeah.
we see it on the government. Not to knock the government side or the state side, but I always crack up when I see the bids or I get a response from like a local energy, the energy supplier, or whoever locally on the government side, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing our next supplier bid until 2036, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so you're locked in for the next 10 years with these suppliers. Like, we
Fuck.
we really think that's sufficient? Like, all right, good luck with that. Yeah.
And really, if you consider cost alone also, because that's also some of the retort you probably get is, well, you're a little bit high, and these other guys will,
Yeah.
they'll
Yep.
meet our expectation, and that could be true, but a little bit higher cost in the beginning when you're getting a quality product is going to pay for itself, over
For sure.
time or even immediately.
For
Sometimes you get
sure.
what you pay for.
Just gonna say it's that old cliche, you get what you pay for. That
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
everybody's mama taught them.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim, we did this in our first meeting together. We chat far too long, which was wonderful, but I am going to be responsible here. We're going to wind this down. Adam, can you lead us into our lightning round? What do you
Okay.
got for Tim
So let's do like one sentence, one word for the following. With keep it short, which I'm terrible at this, Tim. So if you go long,
Yeah,
that's
that's
fine.
asking a lot coming from
Yeah,
Adam.
nothing in my world is one sentence or one word, buddy. So, but what's one metric that people overvalue?
One metric.
Thinking in your world.
Yeah, in my world, well, I mean, we kind of already said it, but cost. It's
Yeah.
too high of a factor.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. What's one that people undervalue?
Value. Sounds crazy, but the exact opposite. The opposite of cost is value, and ROI, if you will, return on investment, doesn't always show up on a spreadsheet.
Yes. Yeah,
Yep.
When
that's
we
a
talk
great one.
about, and here I go going over my one word, but
I won't hold you to it because I do the same. We're there.
when we talk about the putting people into it, putting empathy, the spreadsheet can only tell part of the story. It doesn't really say everything. Sometimes potential needs to be involved. In sports, we pay attention to, here's this quarterback's production, but he's only
Yep.
this age, and we think by this age he's going to be producing at a much higher level. Companies need to integrate those type of thought processes into their everyday.
Yeah.
I'll stop
Well,
there. That's a whole other show.
because I can't do this without a tangent. So here's my tangent with the quarterback piece too, because I use that analogy all the time. And in environments, right?
Yeah.
Look at how many quarterbacks got given up on, got, the old Sam Darnold seeing ghosts with the Jets and going to Carolina looking terrible. He gets with the Vikings, wins 14 games, goes the next year to the Seahawks and wins the Super Bowl. He's the same quarterback, but his environment changed. And I think lots of times as businesses, we think of people as static, right? And not necessarily as, well, what can they be? What's their potential? Where, if we put them in the right environment, then what can they do? Turns out you put them in the right environment, they can go win a Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's, we write people off too quickly. So anyway, there's my side tangent. You brought up sports, and I love that
I'm sorry,
analogy. So
I've got to do it too.
do it,
So,
do it, do it.
just to piggyback off that real quick, just business, just like sports, is chemistry.
Yes.
It takes the right coach with the right quarterback and the right general manager and the right CEO, president, whatever. Just because it doesn't work in one iteration in one company, the very next one could be the one to hit big and is the next big thing. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah,
I
love
love
what
it.
you're saying.
No, that's perfect. Okay, so give me this then. We'll end the lightning on this.
Okay.
What, maybe we could transition from sports to food, because we draw a lot of parallels between all of them. What's one favorite business lesson you've learned from sports or food culture?
Um, when you're in business, even as a manager, even as a hiring person, what you like doesn't matter. What do your customers need? What do your customers want?
Great one.
What do your people need? Your people that work for you, what do they need? What you think you need is probably wrong. But even if you're right, how long is it going to be right? Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
don't pre-make up your mind of this is exactly what we need on this team. You guys talked in one of your previous episodes about fit and how it's not fit. It's, what is it, Tia? Function.
Alignment.
No,
No,
alignment.
culture
Thank
ad.
you. That's
Or
what
alignment. Yeah. Okay.
Alignment and culture ad. Yep.
Yeah. And ad culture ad.
Yep.
Yes. Because I'm the type of person that I know my personality pretty well. I know what I'm not good at. I know where my faults are, and I try to go after people who fill those gaps. I don't want somebody just like me. I'm good enough at being me. I need you to be you. And now we can be a strong team. If I do this, you do that, somebody else does something else that neither one of us are good at. Now all of a sudden, now we have something that looks pretty cool. So I'll just say, whatever your preconceived notions are, whatever your biases are, put those to the side. Find out what the people want, and the people are your customer, your staff, your business partners, your suppliers, even. Find out what works, and the only way you're going to find out is by asking.
Yeah, I love that. That's to draw that to our Food Network, our competitive cooking show analogy. It always drives me nuts when the contestants are like, "That food tasted perfect. That was great." I'm like, it drives me nuts. I'm like, you didn't cook for the judges, man. The judges are, you gotta cook to your audience, and so like it's so spot on, right? You've got to appeal to your audience's taste, not your taste. So
That's right.
And in that moment, and every moment's different. Every challenge is different. All right. Well, we'll end on my usual question. You've been listening to the podcast, so you know. What is one thing that is essential to who you are and what you bring to the workforce that would not and does not show up on your resume?
I don't want to overuse empathy, but my knack with people.
Yeah.
And I spent years figuring this out, and a lot of hard mistakes and a lot of banging my head against the wall. My father is somebody, he's an old school mechanic, old school carpenter. He can paint and build things and work on cars and all this stuff. And as a young man in the world, I beat myself up because I can't do any of that crap. I felt inadequate as a man, that I couldn't. I did. I tagged along and I helped him out, and he showed me and he taught me things. And I'm not completely incapable, but I'm just not that person. And it
Yeah.
took me well into adulthood to figure out I'm my mother's child also. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
Yeah.
my mom was something called an item manager for the air for she was a civilian, but she worked for the Department of Defense for I don't know 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really know much about her job until after I was already doing essentially the same thing. I started asking her questions about what she did, and I'm like, wow, that sounds exactly like what I do now. Like, I'm sitting at my
Yeah.
dad's side learning all this stuff about tools and stuff, and I should have been asking my mom questions all along. It probably would have helped me out. But
Yeah. That's
anyway,
amazing, though.
I don't know how I got on that, but my only answer was it's about people. I get along well with people, and I finally accept that about myself. And I find out what people need in my job, and I do what I can to get that. And that's really it. That's what it comes down to. It's
Yeah.
really that simple.
Well, it's simple, but such an underrated skill and
Yeah,
underutilized.
underutilized
It,
for sure, underappreciated.
Yeah,
I'll
yes,
say
yes.
that.
and one that you can't read between the lines on a resume. And I think that's
No.
the most
Absolutely.
important piece, that like there's no way you're going to have that show up in a 1-2 page resume. So I think that's a
Right.
perfect one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can just figure out how to describe that. Let me know. I'll write this down.
Yeah. We got you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, this has been great, Tim. I always enjoy talking to you. We're gonna have you on again in the future once we get a few more rolled out. Just appreciate you and your
Thank
insight.
you. Thank you so much, Adam. You've been very open about your ADHD. Thank you for sharing that with the world. Myself, I'm a diabetic. It limits me, I guess, but according to the United States government, I'm not disabled. So,
Yeah. It's like,
whatever.
it's just another crazy piece of categorization, right? We're so
Yeah,
obsessed with labels, and to me, I'm
right.
like, we gotta
Yeah,
just normalize whatever these quote unquote
that's
labels
right.
are. We're all
That's
humans.
right.
We're all different. We all have different lived experiences. We all look at the world differently. Put
Yeah.
value in that.
We
We're
bring
trying to
something different
categorize
to
a
the
bucket
table.
of
Right?
people. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, man, I'm excited for this one to go live. I'm excited for people to hear your story and the takeaways from it, and to realize like procurement can be exciting and innovative, and
and
get rid of
human.
some of the and human, and get rid of some
Yeah.
of the stigmas there too. So we appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely do it again. And until next time, everyone, we appreciate it.
Thank
All
you
right,
all.
Nice.
cheers, guys.